But it's emergency Pandya time. It is time for Cleared to Play. We're going to take you inside the tent, get you updated on the latest injuries in the Bay. Proud to partner with UCSF Health on this segment and bring in Associate Professor of Orthopedic Surgery, Dr. Nirav Pandya. Now, Doc, take this the right way. I was really hoping not to talk to you today.
Wow.
But here we are. We got emergency Pandya, you know?
Yeah, that seems to be the sentiment throughout the Bay Area. No one wants to be hearing from me when Warriors are playing Game 6.
Okay, I know that you've put some content out there already, but especially for our listeners who have not heard it yet, how would you characterize what Andrew Wiggins is experiencing?
Yeah, so this costal cartilage is basically where your ribs attach to your sternum. So you see it's kind of like a rib fracture, but actually it's that cartilage that actually breaks. So the key thing with this injury is that it's all about pain control and pain relief, because anytime you breathe, you're going to be stressing that area. Anytime you twist or get a blow, it's going to hurt. So I think the key thing in terms of Wiggins coming back is, number one, how much pain he has. Number two, can they control that pain? And you can do that through injections. You can do it through padding or vests. And then based on that pain relief, can he be impactful on the court? And I'm not necessarily worried as much about shooting, dribbling, but is LeBron going to be basically plowing into that area? And that's what I worry about, the contact. I think all the other things, particularly since he played with it after it happened, I'm not as much worried about. But are the Lakers going to be targeting this area of his body?
Is it the impact of LeBron backing into him? Is it the twisting? Is it the breathing? Which is the most severe of the pain thresholds that Andrew's going to have to clear?
I think it's people banging into him. I think the breathing is, obviously the thing that everyone gets concerned about, but there's a lot of other stress kind of going around that rib cage where that one area won't necessarily impact it that much. Twisting would be number two, but I think that the direct impact to that area is what you really worry about. And that's what football players have to worry about, where you see this much more commonly. It's the impact that causes the pain that prevents them from playing.
Okay, so Doc, let's get optimistic for a second. What if the Warriors make it out of this weekend? What is Andrew looking at going forward? How quickly could it get better?
So I think in general, these aren't going to technically heal on a CT scan or MRI for 6 weeks, but most of the pain you're going to get is going to be within the first 7 to 10 days. So if the Lakers, they can get through the Lakers, they get to the next round, yes, that injury will still be there, and there's always a risk of it potentially getting aggravated, but that acute pain that prevents you from playing those first 7 to 10 days. And I think we saw a similar thing with Justin Herbert when he had it with the Chargers. Obviously, different position, different sport, but it was that second week, I think he came back and he was able to be effective. So I think if we can get through this week and we get to that next round, then I think it's going to be less of an issue for him moving forward.
The worsening of this injury, can it lead to an actual broken rib, or is the cartilage fracture just significant enough to where the cartilage can only get fractured so much and then it's just going to be what it's going to be?
Yeah, I think for the most part, barring some massive blow, and I worry more like a sport like football as opposed to basketball, is that, could that potentially maybe move a little bit? Could it get worse? But it's an inherently pretty stable area around it. So, yes, it's a break of the cartilage. It's very painful. But it would take a very severe blow, probably something that wouldn't happen on a basketball court, to make it much worse. Obviously, that's a risk, but the chance of it happening is pretty small.
Hey, Doc, what did you see with the whole AD thing the other night? What the heck do you think happened there if that's not a concussion?
Yeah, I think that goes into the kind of the ways in which you diagnose a concussion. And I think it's really hard, particularly in the NBA where they don't have independent, people watching and don't have as strict a criteria as the NFL, because it's based simply on how players perform on a test and kind of subjectively how they're saying. It can be hard to diagnose it, or sometimes, players know what questions they need to answer. So I agree, just looking at it from 20,000 feet, away, you're like, oh, how could that not be a concussion? But it's always hard to know exactly for sure and what the medical staff of the Lakers is doing. So as a fan, I was like, wow, that looks like a concussion. But I could see how a player could potentially be cleared under that scenario, because there is a lot of gray zone in terms of diagnosing concussion. So a lot of nuances in it. I know some of the people on the Lakers medical staff, and they're good people, so I don't think there was anything nefarious going on. It's just the reporting where they talked about him hobbling and being in a wheelchair made you think that something serious was going on.
Did you think similarly about the Draymond Green head slam in Game 4? Because I saw that, and I thought immediately about the protocol, and yet, even though he was rubbing the back of his head for 5 or 10 minutes, he never seemed to be in a concussive sort of state.
Yeah, I think that really does show how much head trauma is different. So you could have a player who has a big impact, they get up and they're walking fine. It's really how their brain's impacted afterwards. So, if Anthony Davis was wobbly, was not able to walk, you obviously get more concerned. Draymond, yes, it seems like a much bigger hit than what Anthony Davis did, but his brain didn't seem to be impacted. He got up, he played, he wasn't having any symptoms. So that's the difficult part. That a lot of times it's not the blow, but it's how the brain basically gets kind of shook around or jarred. So it can be as much acceleration as it is the actual impact that causes the concussion.
Doc, who plays basketball tonight?
Klay Thompson plays basketball tonight.
Let's
Normal
go.
Klay Thompson. Normal Klay Thompson.
Right. Yes, thank you. Regular Klay. That's right. I want to go to the window, and I'd like to order just one regular Klay, please. I like a regular size Klay.
You don't want that spicy?
No, just regular Klay, just bland, fine. Let's go. That's it. Doc, I think that's perfect.
Awesome. Well, have a good one, guys.
All right. Thank you so much for doing it.
Game 6 Pandya is what that was. Legit.
It was. It was a flurry, and it was also sponsored by UCSF Health. So,
I love an emergency Pandya. And you said it perfectly off the top. We wish we didn't have to call you, but he knows the nature of the gig is costal fracture. He gets the call.